Right then guys, let's look at the third day of creation. Before we do that, let's look at the base. Let's look at the root of it. Isaiah 46, 9 to 10. I make known the end from the beginning. I make prophecy of the end from the beginning. Where's the beginning? Creation week. In the beginning, God created. Those days have prophecy in them. Okay? 2 Peter 3, 8 to 10 gets quoted quite a lot for people that are actually Christian, but they want to prove millions and billions of years because they're obviously still on this millions of years nonsense. Yeah. Oh, it's a big wide gap, wide expanse. The expanse theory, the day theory, as in it's a long period of time. No, it's wrong because the prophecy's there. Just stick with God's word. Yeah. Well, a day is like 1,000 years. In Psalm 94, a day is like 1,000 years. Remember that. It's amazing. Actually, just read all the Psalms. It's beautiful. Anyway, why is the prophecy the third day? So the third day, God does this. Genesis 1:9. And God said, let be gathered. Now look at the wording. And I actually was going through the Hebrew. I always go through the Hebrew as well. And I obviously use my King James version, Gideon's, and New King James. So good English translations. Some people said the Gideon's were not. I like the Gideon's. It was good. But the King James, yeah, pretty much renders it really accurate. This is the Hebrew, pretty much, but so you can understand, because you've got to remember, sometimes the Hebrew, it's back and forward. So you've got to put it in a proper context that you can read. And so let's have a look. Genesis 1:9, and God said, let be gathered together the waters, under the heaven. Some translations say sky. Now we already did that in the second day creation. Sky, heaven, firmament, the first heaven. Yeah. The King James version actually does a really good thing. It actually says heaven. Some of it trying to say heavens. Okay. Into one place, and let appear the dry. In the Hebrew, I just put in brackets land. But actually in the Hebrew it just says, and let appear the dry. We know that's land, that's earth. And it was so. Genesis 1:10. And God called the dry earth. So that dry is called earth. So now we know that's land, yeah. I don't need to put land there. Earth. And the collection of waters. So he's collecting the waters. He called seas. Okay. What is the prophecy here? This is the third day. So what we need to do is, we're not looking at the first millennium or the second millennium, we're looking into the third millennium. What happened in the third millennium? Moses, the parting of the Red Sea. This is in the third millennium. Now, the dates are a little bit on and off, according to many different backgrounds that are using the genealogies and everything. What we can all agree on is this: the parting of the Red Sea happened in the third millennium. That's unanimous. Whether you're using the Jewish calendar or the Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar, it doesn't really matter. It's all happening on the third day. Yeah? So between 2,000 years and 3,000 years and a Monday. Yeah? It's happening now. I stem and really lean towards 2,638, only because 2028 is, I'm hoping Jesus Christ will return. I think that is going to be it, because of the perfect numbers, the prophecies. The birth of Israel was 1948, which again was another prophecy. So we just got to add the 80 years on with the prophecy of other scriptures, and that's when he will return. I go by this. I looked at, well, what would the BC around? You're looking around here, but you like 1,223. If you go to like the Jewish calendar, their actual calendar today is saying 5,785 on a Monday. they believe the Earth is not even 6,000 years old. I don't believe either. But their calendar shows it's got another 225 years, 215 years until the 6,000 years. I don't believe this. Why? Because we know after the first century, there was a strong Jewish sect that hated Jesus because he was claimed to be God. And what they did, they started changing the calendars because the Christians, the first Jews and everyone, even Christians today, they were pointing out the prophecies in Daniel 9 and stuff, and putting them together and be like, look, this is your Messiah. They didn't like it. They were like, no, we're waiting for a different Messiah, not this Jesus guy. So this is just one little small sect that believe this. But they're bang on though, because you've got to remember, God works on lunar calendars. Yeah, 30 days in every month. We, as a Gregorian calendar, we use a solar calendar. Is it correct? I hope so. Because if it is, 2028. Now, if 2028, our 2028, doesn't happen when Jesus Christ returns, it doesn't mean that the prophecy is false. It means that we've just got our calendars wrong. Yeah, we've just got it wrong. Which means he's still going to return 2028, which technically will be 6,000 years. It has to be. But the third day, sorry, let's go back. We're just going to look at it again. And God called the dry earth and the collection of water seas. Okay. In Genesis 1, and God said, let be gathered together the waters under the heaven, sky, the firmament, into one place, and let it appear the dry. And it was so. Okay. It actually uses, I forget which verse, but it uses that archaic language, mist, so in between, which is quite good. Oh, it's actually, I think it's here. Anyway, what is the fulfillment? Well, Exodus 14:21-22. So this is going on in the third day, between 2,300 and 3,000 and a Monday. So this is the third millennium, was the prophecy. And stretched out, check this out, and stretched out Moses, his hands stretched out over the sea. The Lord, by a strong wind, made the sea into dry, we know that's earth, land, and were divided the waters. Remember the account? Moses going through? This is very symbolic. Again, this is unreal. Moses is what you call like a prophetic symbol of Jesus. Don't need to go into the gospel, do I? I'm going to say, when Jesus was crucified to save everyone, his hands were stretched out. He was crucified on a crucifix. Huh? Crazy. It was Moses. It's symbolic. You got to look at this. What are the Israelites doing? They're trying to get away from their captors, evil, Satan, bad stuff, which is Pharaoh. Yeah, the Israelites are God's people. They want to be saved. Moses stretches out his hands, and they walk through him to go down onto this dry land. Yeah, it's amazing. Oh, by the way, you know how old Moses was when he started confronting Pharaoh? 40 years old. 40 years old Moses was when he stretched out his hands to save God's people, the Israelites at the time, which today it's Christians, because Jesus spread out his hands to save everyone. Yeah. But he was 40 years old. The Bible actually depicts people's ages, when they were born, what sons they had. Why go out your own way to say he was 40 years old? There's a prophecy right there. Did you not see it? 40 years old. Well, I take 4. I'm not trying to stretch scriptures, but think about it. 4. What happened 4,000 years? And a Monday. that'll be when Jesus Christ was crucified. 4,000 years into the world creation, Jesus Christ was crucified. But yet Moses was 40 years old when he stretched his hands out to save his people away from his captors. There's a slave to sin, a slave to the Pharaoh. They were slaves. He wanted them to be free. Exactly the same thing what Jesus says. Do not be a slave to sin. I want you to be free. Jesus opened his hands out to save us. Yeah? It's symbolic. Look at it. And Moses is exactly the same. So the Israelites actually represent mankind. Yeah? Pharaoh at the time represents sin. Represent the bad. They're trying to free the bad. Sin. That's why we want to get away from sin and be saved through Jesus. Very symbolic. Yeah? So it's amazing. It's amazing. Look at it. And I hate it because I love it, but I could talk hours and hours and hours, all the symbolic and stuff, but just to try and get things down quite easy because people just say, hey, look, just get on with it. Okay. Exodus 15:8. And with the blast of your nostrils, Yahweh's nostrils, God, were gathered together the waters. But this is crazy language. Not crazy language, it's just crazy how the stuff is used together. Look at it, look at it. I'm not going to babble on now through the stuff of it. Genesis 1:9. And God said, let be gathered together the waters under the heaven into one place, and let appear dry. And it was so. Creation week, number 3. And God called the dry earth and collection of waters sea. Okay. Fulfillment, Exodus 14:21-22. And stretched out Moses his hands over the sea. The Lord by a strong wind made the sea into dry and were divided the waters. Can you not see this? This is crazy. This is like amazing. So went the sons of Israel into the midst of the sea on the dry. A coincidence. Come on, mate. Next chapter, Exodus 15:8. And with the blast of your nostrils, Yahweh's nostrils, the Lord, were gathered together again, this word, the waters. Wow. Amazing. Prophecy. Fulfillment. Third day. Third millennium. Amazing. But like I said, unanimously, depending on what side you lead on, whether you're using the lunar, Julian, Gregorian, solar, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what dates you use. They all fall in this third day. They all fall in this third day. Prophecy. I make known the end from the beginning. Third day. I separate the waters and make dry earth. Now the symbolic thing about it as well, going back to the Moses account, again, remember he's stretching his hand, they're getting away from sin, they come onto the dry land. What did God promise them? The promised land. What are the Israelites going out to do? To go to be saved in their own promised land. Moses is 40. Coincidence? And 4,000 years is Jesus who stretches his arms out to save us. That's not a coincidence, man. Come on. It's there. It's right there. The text is saying it. And it specifically goes out to say his age. Well, why? Makes sense. The dry land, it's the path, it's the way to heaven. So the promised land is symbolic for heaven. So when Moses stretched out his hands to get away from Pharaoh, sin, they went through Moses, who had his hands stretched out. They went through that onto dry land. Yeah? The same way we look at Jesus through him, his stretched hands on the cross, we can go through him to get to heaven. Like they did to get to their promised land. Well, we all get promised heaven if we go through Jesus. But yet Moses did the same thing. It was very symbolic. Look at it. It's beautiful prophecy. We can go through all the text and everything. I'll be here for hours. Amazing stuff. Yeah. God bless. Take care.